Hello guys, today we're going to be doing a video on COD Warzone's Fortune Key using the RTX 3060 Ti. We're playing the game at 1080p on the low settings. I got everything turned off to its lowest value. Whoa, the door's kind of glitching out there. Weird lighting. I haven't seen that before. I've already done videos with the RTX 3080 and the GTX 1050 Ti on this map. I didn't want to upload too many Warzone videos altogether, so waited a little bit of time to do the 3060 Ti, but finally doing it now, and it's running pretty great. Getting 170 to 190 FPS. Game's running very smooth. I thought this was meant to replace Rebirth, but I guess they're both available right now. And I gotta be honest, this is running way slower. Like, it's not the actual frame rate of the game, but the pace of the match. Rebirth is far more action-packed and faster paced. This is just kind of in here in one shoot. Let's go and try out 1440p at low settings. Alright, new match, but we're playing at 1440p now. As you can see, our GPU is fully maxed out instead of it sitting at like 80%. It was maxed out as well at 1080p, but in some areas, you know, some areas it was sitting at 70, 80%, while in others it was at 95%. But 1440p, as you would expect, we are fully maxed out now. FPS, this indoor bunker, is actually pretty much the same as 1080p, sitting in the 160s to 180s. Obviously, it will be lower once we go outside, but it's running really well still at 1440p. This is a 1440p card for sure, but most people I feel like are going to be playing this at 1080p, so you want to get a good enough CPU if you want to push it as far as it can go. We'll turn on DLSS once we, you know, hit 60 FPS, so when we fall below 60, that's when I will actually enable it. If we're sitting at 170 to 180, there's really no need for DLSS, especially at 1440p and 1080p. Alright, let's go ahead and jump up to 4K low settings. Alright, I went ahead and actually increased the resolution to 4K now, and this card is crushing it. We're still holding over 100 FPS for the most part. We will get some dips obviously since we're indoors, but still way above 60 and the game feels really smooth. The mass movement isn't as fluid, you know, because we're coming from playing at 170, 160 FPS, but still feels really nice. So you're definitely not putting yourself at a disadvantage by playing at 4K with this card. We obviously can use DLSS as well to push the frame rate back up, but you don't really need to. Unless you want to, I guess. Jumping up to medium settings, 1080p. Let's see how this runs. Playing scene is kind of intensive normally, but yeah, look at that. We're getting 90 FPS, 80 FPS. And then, boom, 200 FPS in the sky. The map actually looks way smaller from the sky than it does when you actually land. It looks smaller than Rebirth, or the same size as Rebirth when you're in the sky, but once you actually land, it feels way bigger. Okay, I kind of relied that like 3 times in this area, but at least it's action packed, so I'm gonna keep landing here. Alright. It's gonna airstrike this. That mantle almost got me killed. The mantling Warzone kind of sucks. I can't even lie. I don't know why it's mantling me when I'm not even facing the direction of the actual jump. But let's kill this guy down here as well. But looking at our FPS, it's kind of crazy how good it's doing. We're still sitting at 170 to 200 FPS in this area, in this indoor area, which isn't realistic, but still. It feels like the actual settings haven't affected our frame rate at all. The game obviously looks slightly better, not a massive jump, but FPS wasn't affected, so what? Why not, you know? There's really no reason for you to not be playing, at least on medium settings. And if your CPU can't actually push 200 FPS or like 170 FPS, then you can obviously increase your quality even more to use up the extra headroom that you have available to you on your GPU. Alright, 1440p medium settings, let's go. Get this gun real quick. Oh, okay, this guy here. Oh, he's got incendiary rounds too. No way I killed him. Alright, FPS seems to be hovering around 130 to 150. So, running 1440p, 144. This seems to be perfect. A perfect balance for that. Oh, another guy. Well, this gun slaps. Shoots so quick. The game so far has felt great in all presets and resolutions so far. I haven't ran into any slowness or sluggishness with the aiming or the actual game itself, but I feel like once we get up to 4K high and maybe ultra settings, that's when we'll start running into issues and slowness. Let's go and jump up to 4K medium. 4K settings, medium preset. Still holding 90 FPS. It's very similar to what we had at the lowest settings. So this just shows that you don't really need to play on the lowest. You can just, you know, increase it a little bit to medium and you'll be getting very similar FPS. Maybe a little bit lower, like
Enemy team is tracking your
10
position.
FPS lower, but it's a small price to pay for the amount of quality you get from it. Surprised that I found those people, to be honest. As soon as I say something, I down some guy.
Reinforcements disabled.
I'm landing in the same area as the 3080 video, and this time it's just not very crowded at all. I think we had 35 players in the lobby. I don't know if that's the full amount you can have for this map, but definitely doesn't feel like it's a lot, especially for quads.
Gas is approaching your position.
Alright, we're playing on the third preset, which in the game it's called normal, but if we're going off low, medium, high, we will be on high. And the last preset, which is called high in the game, will be the ultra preset. Just for anyone that's confused. But yeah, FPS is doing very well still at 1080p. We're sitting at 130 to 150 FPS. Couldn't get that jump. That's
Enemy UAV active.
should have. I don't know why I opened the parachute there. But yeah, on the low preset, we were holding like 170 to 190. We had some dips to the 150s at times, but wow, we're actually getting 112 FPS there. So yeah, definitely at high settings. The game maybe looks slightly better. It's not a massive jump. We're losing heaps of FPS for a slight improvement in the quality on this map anyway. I would not want to use DLSS at 1080p. On Warzone, DLSS just doesn't look good. At 1440p and 4K, looks better, you know. At 4K it definitely looks better, but at 1440p you want to stick to quality. You don't want to use balance. Let's see. Honestly, the game feels pretty decent so far. FPS is holding 80 inside. I want to go outside though. I want to see what we get outside. Just want to make sure that no one's in the area. Alright. Okay, 70. In the low 70s when we actually go outside. Aiming kind of feels... Yeah, the aiming definitely does feel worse, for sure. Especially since I'm coming from like 150 FPS, it definitely feels far worse. Yeah, it seems like our FPS is pretty much all over the place. We go from the low 70s to 90s in some areas, the high 90s. So, kind of inconsistent, but that isn't causing me like any issues or like any hiccups or that I can feel at all. But the aiming at 70 FPS is far worse, feels far worse.
Enemy UAV active. Enemy advanced UAV over. Squad member is redeployed.
Alright, we're playing at 1080p max settings now. Everything's... All the sliders are pretty much maxed out except for ray tracing and all the stupid stuff like motion blur.
Take him out.
And I forgot how bad this pistol is. I don't pick it up. I forgot how bad the recoil is on it and it does no damage. But yeah, FPS is actually pretty decent. We're considering that we're playing the game at max settings. We're getting 130 to 140 FPS. We are indoors, I guess, and it's much easier to run that. It all depends on the area that you're playing in, but so far it's running pretty good. Alright, we're getting 120, 127 once we go outside. At 1080p, you will have no problem pretty much. The game doesn't lag or stutter at all. The sweet spot seems to be a mix of medium to high for this card at 1080p. You can run ultra, obviously, or max settings. Alright, 1440p max settings. We are sitting at 90 FPS indoors. Seems to be I seem to be always indoors, so let's just go outside. I'm coming way out. My guess is that we're gonna get 80 to 90 FPS outdoors, but I guess we'll see in a second. We're actually getting 100 to 110 FPS outdoors. That's very nice. And the way that max preset, and normally the max presets are super taxing on your GPU, and since they're so taxing, you're gonna be losing a bunch of your FPS. So you gotta ask yourself if the FPS loss is worth a quality gain. And for me, I don't think it is, especially at 130p. Alright, funny enough, at 4K, our FPS is like very similar to high settings. Sitting at 70 to 80 FPS. This guy's being a little rat. Can't see him.
Meet up here.
Did he die? I didn't get an assist. Alright, I think we'll just leave him. Game does feel more choppy to be honest at 60 FPS. Even though the frame time graph is very smooth, it just, I don't know. Feels a bit choppy. We'll try DLSS and we'll see what FPS game we get there. FPS is doing fantastic. We're sitting at 160 FPS. 150 FPS. But yeah, we're pretty much more than double our FPS. And this is at Ultra. At Ultra DLSS. You can obviously play at balance as well. The lowest I would go, probably balance at 4K. Performance, you're gonna see some blurring, and it just starts looking poor, to be honest. You lose your sharpness from 4K. Alright, that's it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, found it useful. If you did, give it a like, and a sub to the channel, we highly appreciate it. See you next time.